Steven Wilson Jr.
Yes, sir.
Somewhere at sea in a bowling lounge.
Yes, we're here.
Was that on your bingo card?
Or it wasn't
2024?
No, didn't see that one coming, but
Yeah.
I'm here and I'm happy about it.
I love it. Is it interesting to hear your songs in the hallway all around this ship?
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I get kind of sick of them, to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been hearing them for years, so I'm a little bit inside of the joke, I guess.
Steven Wilson experience. Sometimes it feels like a theme park.
Yeah, it's a little bizarre.
Yeah.
But you know, I've gotten to hear so many other artists' music though. So as a byproduct of laboring through my own music, I've gotten to hear a lot of other artists that I haven't really got to spend as much time as I'd like to.
Yeah.
Listening to.
Absolutely. You know, Steven, I was listening to some Beatles stuff earlier, and a lot of like their B stuff, their B side, are like some of their best songs.
Great.
Thinking about some of that. Obviously, it has 22 songs. It's like a full, beautiful record. But I'm wondering if you had songs that didn't make the cut, that are in some Dropbox somewhere, that you're like, man, oh man, that song, those songs, will they ever see the light of day?
Yeah, I have some songs that I was going to cut for the record, and I will cut it for the next record. It wasn't that it didn't make the cut, it was that I literally couldn't physically sing it. Like, it was just really personal at the time. And kind of when I was making the record, like, you know, I kept a record of my dad's death and made a record about it. And there's a song called I'm a Song, and I wrote it before he died. And my dad told me, he used to come to my Bluebird rounds. We had this little cafe in Nashville, the Bluebird Cafe, and he would go there and he'd film my performances, and I was so annoyed by it at the time. Like, I would do anything to have that back, that annoyance. But he recorded this one song called I'm a Song that I'd written, and he just loved it. And he told me one day, we used to sit around and watch fights, and he just randomly, for no reason, just said, hey, that song you played at the Bluebird the other night, I'm a Song. So that's my favorite song. And I was like, whoa. I thought he was like, mine. He's like, no, like, ever. I think that's my favorite song. And I was like, geez.
Wow.
I didn't really know what to say to it. And then he passed away a few months after that. And because he said that, I played it at his funeral. And I don't know how, but I did. And I got through it. And then I probably rarely played it ever since. I was really afraid of the song. It was like, you know, I just really couldn't face it. And then once this album came out, once it was released, I guess release being the operative word there, it kind of let it go. And I started playing it again. And so that was a song that should have been on the record, but wasn't on the record for a reason. And it'll be on the next one because it's really more of a continuation of the story, not so much a hard stop. Sure. Yeah. Well, I think there's a reason for that.
I love that, man. I love that. And that takes me to, you know, this week I've seen you perform a few times. It's been a gift. It's been a gift to see you.
Thank you, Jay.
And, you know, the way, obviously I knew the power of your songs, but I wasn't prepared for the power of your performance and the way that you break that kind of fourth wall with the audience in a really special way. There's like a flow of energy amongst the groups. Did you, this is kind of like a silly question, but like, how do you get to that level? Did you practice that? I remember reading once that Mick Jagger used to practice that, like in a mirror, obviously. But it's just like the way that you're such a great performer on such a deep level, you know.
I really don't know, Jamie. I've never practiced that part of it. I think I gotta give Nashville a lot of credit for that. Because my first way of singing in front of people was actually at the Bluebird Cafe. It was in a writer's round format. Yeah. And writer's rounds are very banter-driven, and they're very storyteller-driven. Sure. And there's a lot of humor, and there's a lot...
Art, right?
Yeah, I think it's one of the... If you're not used to it, it can be one of the hardest mediums to perform in for a lot of folks. If you're used to having a band behind you, it's really very exposing.
Yeah.
And you know, it takes a minute to get used to that for some folks. And So that's where I actually started out, singing was I really kind of went into the belly of the beast. And I started there, and I learned from so many other great songwriters of watching them introduce their songs and tell the stories and setting up the songs. It was more than just playing the damn song. Like the whole show was everything.
Yeah.
And I learned that, I got to say, from Nashville, because I haven't really seen any other place on planet Earth do it like Nashville.
Yeah.
At least that component of it. And I've incorporated that, I guess, aspect of the writers' round into my full-blown band rock and roll show. So I've kind of taken that sentiment and pulled it into it. And it's just a real natural medium for me. And so I really practiced by performing.
Yeah.
Like really just going out and doing it. Not so much in front of a mirror, just in front of strangers, and figuring out how to talk to people, because I've always been very shy, and I struggled with public speaking and all that stuff for a long time, but especially without a guitar. But when I have a guitar in my hands, somehow, for me at least, it's a buffer, helps neutralize the air for me, and I can kind of speak. Without it, it's sometimes kind of difficult. So I got to give the guitar some credit too. And I'm just really comfortable with my guys on stage. There's that aspect of it. And really, God, like when I quit my job to do this, I did it. I'd never sang in front of anybody before that, ever. Like, I'd sing some background vocals, but I'd never sang a song for anybody in my life. And I was just like, and there was like such a pressure for me to leave that job to do this. I had no choice but to just desperately say a prayer, and just more of a plea. Like, if you want me to do this, like, you got to give me a voice. You got to give me something. I don't know how to do this. And that's what showed up. So.
Yeah. Well, it is a gift, man. And that makes sense, because you do make these large rooms feel very intimate. Not hard to do.
Well, thank you. And then, I started off in intimate rooms.
Yeah.
And really, I've always kind of we have this big arena in Nashville called Bridgestone Arena. And I like a Bluebird to Bridgestone kind of mentality, where you can take that into that, and take the Bridgestone into the Bluebird. You make that oh wow, this is kind of a rock and roll show.
Well, you're doing that.
Okay.
Something in the way.
Yes, sir.
You don't do a lot of covers. That Nirvana cover, it's a highlight of your set. It's spectacular.
Thank you.
But I am obviously, you've talked before about the impact Nirvana had on you. But I find I wanted to talk to you about this, because I just read Gen Z is having this resurgence with Nirvana. Mm-hmm. Why do you think that songs like that, and I think a lot of your songs are in the same path, are like timeless? Like, what makes a song like Something in the Way after all these years? What is that, like 32 years, 30 years?
Yeah. I think the honesty of the lyrics, and like, even if the abstractness is it's really hard to kind of exactly glean what he's saying, which I think is what is great about it. Like, it's not just so teed up for you. Mm-hmm. Like, I think lyrically it's quite cryptic in the best way, and a lot of Kurt's lyrics were that way. But at the same time, you knew exactly what he was trying to say, without really knowing what he was saying. Yeah. You knew exactly what he was saying, and I feel like that's, to me, one of the most sought after forms of writing, for me, like trying to get, I guess, capture that sentiment and make it so artistic. And with that particular song, it's one of his most subdued songs, it's one of their most subdued songs. From what I remember reading, he actually sang it laying down, and it's mostly just the guitar and some cellos, and the band kind of comes in later, but it's not like a big rocking song. But for me, it was one of my favorite songs. It was one of the songs that I listened to over and over and over again. And I think, I just believed in, with that particular song, I believe he's referencing, homelessness, and there's so many aspects of life, and him coming from Seattle and seeing all that, it all just tracked. Like I believed every word he was saying because I knew where he came from, and I knew what he was saying, and I could see it, I could feel it. It was very visceral, and he painted a very tangible picture with a very few amount of words, and he just repeats verse 1 and verse 2. He doesn't even write a new verse. He just repeats it. It's almost like a hymn. And I grew up singing hymns, so like that format was somewhat intriguing to me, where you just kind of say the same thing over, but the second time it means something different because you've already said it once. So now you almost say it differently the second time, and it gives it a whole new meaning, but it's just the same words. Yeah.
Wow, that's really interesting. Well, thanks, Stephen.
You're welcome.
You know, you talked about your songwriting. Your songwriting, you know, you're like an Italian kind of carpenter with the words of your songs. I know that from research. But was there a song that you have a song that came to you in one sitting, that it was just like that you just opened up to the universe and you're like, bring it forward. I need this song, and it just happened. Like,
yeah, a song called "The Devil."
The devil came like that.
Yeah, it just literally showed up fully. But you always read the lyrics first. Yes, almost always. So I wrote it all lyrically. Like I wrote the whole song, and but I didn't put it to music for probably a couple months. So it showed up, very much in the form that even in the way that I sang it. I just kind of had to pick a key and go. I already knew how it was going to go. And so yeah, that one showed up really quickly. Like the whole thing was just in 30 minutes. It was like,
that'd be the best feeling for an artist.
Well, at the time, honestly, like, when that song showed up, I was a staff writer for BMG. I wasn't an artist at all. I was like, what do I do with this? Nobody's going to cut this song. So one, it was so personal to me because of my upbringing. It really was like, it was so healing and revealing. It scared me. And so, I was really afraid of it at first. And, you get to the practical business side of the songs, which is another part of my life that I was in. Is like, what, no one's going to cut this song. You can't pitch this. Which, I didn't really let that get in the way, but I was not an artist when I wrote that. That song just showed up. It was almost kind of preparing me for it. And,
you were not an artist in title, but you were always an artist.
Yeah, well, thank you, Jamie. But yeah, I was not entitled at the time. And so, when that showed up, I really didn't know. I wasn't like, thank God for this song. I just really didn't know what to do with it because I didn't know what I was doing with it.
Sure.
Like,
but
literally.
It was special. You knew there was something there, right?
Yeah, and then, so I knew I had to put it to music, and then it probably took me another month to even play it for somebody, and I didn't even play it for my wife. It was like, I just thought it was this kind of maybe too weird of a song, and I played it at this coffee shop, and I just remember this grown woman started weeping like profusely, and I was like, oh wow, this mine. There's something in here. And then I played it for my wife, and she was like, oh yeah, okay. I mean, that's totally a thing. You got to keep doing whatever that is.
Off here. Well, let me leave you with this. I know you have a big show today. I got to take care of your boys. Had the chance to hang out with your band and your sister and all that this week. And you talk a lot about the influence your father had on you, on the boxing side of stuff and all that.
Yeah.
But just seeing you interact with your fans and with the people, and seeing the way your sister talks to people, there's such a beautiful value-driven kind of upbringing there, heart, like something that is more powerful than anything. It's really what the world needs. Talk to us a little bit about kind of like that side of your dad's upbringing, just like the way that you generally connect with every soul that comes your way.
Yeah, well, we get that from him. And Lacey J, my sister, very much gets it from him too. He just had a really great way of making everybody just feel welcomed, like just even in his presence, like right here, not like in his home, but just around him. And he always wanted great things for people. And I just, that kind of rubbed off on me, even though we were quite different as people in a lot of ways. Yeah, he couldn't not love people.
Sure.
And he just saw so much good in people. And there was a lot of pessimism in my town. a lot of religious oppression and stuff, and he was really able to see through a lot more. He was like really kind of ahead of his time in a town that was a little behind perhaps its time. And so I don't know, I just the values part of it, like, you know, just leading with your heart. And he would give his shirt off his back to anybody. I know it's a really cheesy, worn out saying, but I think I saw him do it. He didn't really wear shirts a lot anyway. He was like one of those redneck dudes and just doing that. But no, yeah, he was very much, you know, a do the right thing, a values driven parent. And he was a very social, he's far more social than I was. Lacey J, my sister, has a lot more of that, and my brother Nicholas does too. But he, you know, I could just watch him kind of make people just feel welcome and kind of just open up and be like the best part of themselves. And when I meet fans, that's really, I just want to listen to them. You know, I don't really, I just want to hear what they have to say, and that's the only thing I can do. And he was good at that as well, like just being there and just listening to folks. And yeah, it's really profound to connect with these strangers and see these, you know, the songs kind of take on a life of their own. Sure. And then they kind of connect us in these venues and all these places, and I get to kind of see how the song, how it, you know, developed on my side of the fence, see how it works on their side of the fence, and you kind of get to talk about it. It literally is magical. Closest thing to magic we got.
Perfect. With that. Thanks, Steven.
So, thank you, Jamie.
Appreciate that.
My pleasure.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here for the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from J-Rod Concert Media.